don't know why. It says we're going live. It says we're here. I don't know if I'm here until my existence is validated by others. You look taller than me in the view because you sit higher up, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure, because you're not actually taller than me, and so I was going back to the are we crooked? I don't know. I feel like we're blurry. Do we look blurry to you on your screen?
No.
Okay, maybe it's the angle. I just feel like everything's off, and I don't know why.
I don't know either.
I guess we should, actually be here. Hello.
Hi.
Kayla Lords.
John Brownstone.
Of Loving BDSM, where we help kinksters like you have happy, healthy power exchange relationships. This is our weekly live stream while we record our podcast. The audio version goes out every Friday on all major podcast apps. We are here 6 minutes early. If you're here for the live stream and you don't like idle chit chat, you got 6 minutes. If you're here after the live stream, but before I put in timestamps, and you don't like idle chit chat, fast forward 6 minutes. Yeah, that's what I got. So I'm gonna say hi to folks because that's what I do.
That's what you do. Do what you do.
I know. Hi, Angelina. Hi, Missy. Hi, Kitty. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, New Brat. Hi, Computer King. Hi, Silent. Hi, Dorina. Hi, Brittany. Hello. We're here.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Bad Cat. Barely morning. It feels that way to me too, and it shouldn't, because I've been up since 6, so
5:30 for me.
I know. I was going to ask what time. Hi, Shelby. Because this was the first morning that I didn't wake up once you turned the office light on and you started doing stuff. I slept right on through that.
I woke up because my head was stuffy.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Yep.
We are both drinking Dunkin' today. My Dunkin', I got halfway through it, and then I was like, no, I want more for the live stream, so I topped it up. Hi, Ethan. Hi, Puppy. Mine was a large iced coffee with butter pecan swirl and cream. Butter pecan is now a everyday standard, always there flavor at Dunkin', and I'm so happy it's my favorite. You are drinking a latte.
Yep, coca mocha latte.
Yep. Minus the whipped cream.
Yep.
Decaf.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need any more than that. Hi, Love the World. Hi, Ariel. Hi, Eva. Whoo, Silent Wing. I am so sorry, and also, how are you here at all? It would be understandable if you weren't. Hi, little miss. The dog is sleeping off to the side. Let's hope this week she does not bump into the tripod. Hi, Rara. I got nothing else for the butt rub. No, I am feeling very discombobulated. We are completely off schedule today.
Yeah.
Because I had to take the 13-year-old for his annual checkup at the pediatrician, and that appointment is made literally a year in advance, and so I didn't have it written down at the time. It was before we started doing the family Google Calendar, and so thankfully the office called to remind me. I think they called over the weekend, but that's when I had to go, hey JB, you know how we don't schedule anything on Wednesdays because we have a finely tuned routine? Past me didn't know that, so oops is right. So we haven't done our spicy scene. I haven't done a lot of the normal morning stuff that I do. I didn't even eat breakfast until 9:45 this morning. I didn't get my first sip of coffee until 9:45 this morning. So I just feel out of it. I don't know if anything's right. Hi, Lady Bledding.
And Brittany, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's allergies. And one of the things that affects me, oddly enough, is when air in the house isn't circulating. And even though we have a ceiling fan in the bedroom that runs pretty much constantly,
there's only the cleaners turn that thing off, not us.
We're at this weird stage in Florida weather where it is warm during the day, so the AC runs. And at night, the outside temperature drops just low enough so the AC doesn't always come on during the night.
No, which is sad, which is part of why I'm waking up multiple times. Oh, well, I'm still getting hot flashes. I've got a doctor's appointment in a couple weeks to change my meds around, I think. But I'm waking up multiple times in the night because I get so warm, tossing the covers on, and then you get that little chill, then I put the covers back on. Then I toss them off, then I put them back on. Toss off. So, hi Nia. Hi Mr. Spock. And welcome, Nia from Mexico. Glad you're here to catch a live too. Wow.
Well, hello and welcome, everyone. Glad to have you here with us.
Look at you. Look at you. And to all the lurkers out there who don't do live chat, I don't see you, so don't worry. You're safe and you're lurking, but I see you and I feel you because I am you. I lurk everywhere else. If I'm not the one who's doing the talking, I'm lurking. I'm lurking. So, yeah, I do. I just feel awful. I'm glad we had the appointment. The 13-year-old is over 6 feet tall. He's almost 6'1". Like that's
why my
off.
neck hurts so much when I talk to him.
And he's only gained a few pounds over the course of a year, so he's real thin.
Thin as a
He's a
fence
beanpole.
post.
He's a beanpole. Yeah, he was not excited about the appointment. If you are somebody who has had to have your bits and pieces checked by a doctor and had to cough, if you know what I mean, you'll know why he wasn't real thrilled with that part. And he really wishes I didn't have to be in there. But I was like, dude, you're a minor. I have to be in here. I ain't looking. I don't want to look. After I got to stop like doing diapers with you, I'm not interested. You just need to let me know when there's a problem, because my job is to get you to a doctor. Hi, Aria. So, yeah, and it looks like we're gonna get him to a dermatologist because his acne is only getting worse, not getting any better as he gets older. So that's on the horizon. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot of things we're working on with him over this summer coming up as the school year ends. I think he's gonna have a glow up going into 8th grade. I hope that helps him out because God knows middle school sucks. Whew.
Yeah.
So now that I brought the whole room down, it is noon. We can get started.
Wow.
Let us all think back to when we were 13 and what school was like. That was awful.
Oh no, I don't even want to think about going back to that hell.
I don't either. I've blacked that out of my memory. My first memories are like 9th or 10th grade. Like that's as far back as I go. That's when things actually got decent. Okay, so we are ready to get started. This week we're going to try something new that I had threatened months ago, and I was like, let's do it. I've pulled together some recent articles where BDSM was kind of, air quote this, in the news. That can mean different things. And we're going to talk about the different stories. I'm going to give you a summary of those stories, and then we'll share our opinion. Am I going to repeat this once we've clicked the button and brought the podcast listeners in? Yeah, probably. But that's what we're talking about. So we picked a few. We're going to talk about them. I don't know what will be said. We'll find out together. If you enjoy this at any point, we love a thumbs up. If you like it enough to come back for more and you're not already, please subscribe.
And once you do that, ring that notification bell to get updates and new content.
Do what Daddy says. And if you like it enough to want even more, and you've got a few dollars to spare, you can join us either on Patreon, where you get access to a Discord server, a live stream, an extra one, an extra video, a podcast episode, all kinds of stuff. Or you can, if you prefer YouTube, you can join us here on YouTube, and you get access to the video and the live stream each month. And that helps us keep doing what we're doing. That is it. You can hit buttons, turn on the fan, and we can get this show started. Okay, buttons clicked. I'm turning the fan on to keep us cool, so that's what the hum in the background is if you folks hear it. Okay, and I'm randomly clicking buttons because I don't know how a mouse works. Before we get into this week's episode, an announcement. We have sponsored ourselves again. Just know we're going to keep doing it. I don't know why I'm acting like it's a new thing. It's no longer new. Loving BDSM has an Etsy shop. We have had one for a while now. I've talked about it to the point that people are tired of it, but I'm here to say last week added 3 new products, and a couple of them might be of like serious interest to some hardcore fans. We have a limited stock of the Loving BDSM logo as a soft enamel pin. It's a pin, okay? Y'all know what I mean. It's a pin. It's an enamel pin. I can't say it. I say it Southern. Also, as many of y'all know, our tagline is "Keep it kinky, y'all." We have a soft enamel pin with that as well on the Etsy shop. So I got plenty of those. So if that's your thing and you collect pins or you just want to rep the whole, being a loving BDSM fan or whatever, check us out on Etsy. Link is in the places. I also have added a bookmark, and I plan on making more because that was kind of fun to do, and I can get them made and have them look nice, and I can even design them, and that makes me feel like I'm an artist. I'm not. I buy commercial licenses for artwork, but it makes me feel like I've done something. So yeah, that's available on our Etsy shop, as are our digital workbooks, as are all the other things we've talked about in the past. So if that sounds like your thing, feel free to check it out. Link in the places. And if you're like, what link? I don't know. If you just search Loving BDSM on Etsy, we will come up. Okay, so let's get into this week's episode. So this episode is inspired by a thing we do in our newsletter. We've mentioned it before. You can sign up for a newsletter, no cost, and then get in return as a thank you a BDSM checklist we've made. It's freaking huge. But in that newsletter I send out every week, I do recently, I think this year I started it, or maybe late last year, I can't remember, started a section at the very top called BDSM in the news, and I have a Google alert for all kinds of like BDSM terms, so I get an email when BDSM or DS or whatever hits a headline somewhere to see what's happening in the world. So that's in every newsletter. I try to have at least a couple stories. I also try to not link to the ones that are clearly pearl clutching for clickbait or are kink shamey. Try to find as neutral of ones as I can. It's not always possible. So I asked about this in the newsletter one week, and a couple people actually responded. I was like, what if we did this as an episode one time where we took a few of these stories, gave a synopsis, and then like shared what we think about them? And a couple people actually responded favorably, so I was like, okay.
Right.
So we're gonna try it. These we've got 3 for you today. Links to the original stories that I found, and then in a couple of cases like supporting links, are in the places. YouTube, that's the description box. Podcast, that's the show notes. So if you want to read these for yourselves, do your own like looking around and thinking about it for yourself, you can. The one thing I'm gonna say is that we are not doing deep dives, investigative, let me go find all the details. I want to sort of react and give thoughts on what most of us would get. We would come across a link somewhere, we would read it, and we'd go, oh my gosh, what do I think about it? If you are a person who loves the whole deep dive into what the hell is going on in some like big case or some situation, absolutely recommend Evie Lupine's channel. She of course talks about BDSM and does BDSM 101 and like good information, but every so often she'll do these really, really big deep dives into those kind of news items, like the big ones. I think she's got some videos about the Marilyn Manson thing, which I don't watch that kind of stuff because those stories just sort of stress me out, so I sort of avoid them. So I don't even know all the details of the Marilyn Manson thing, the Arnie Hammer thing, and then a couple others. So if that's your vibe, we've linked to Evie's channel in the places as well. Please go check her out just in general. So let us get into this. The first story is one of the most recent, and I really could not stop thinking about it after I read it. And basically the topic is this person was found not guilty due to consensual BDSM. So let me go through this with you. This is a synopsis. Pardon me, I'm going to read it. So a man is found not guilty after his wife says injuries that she received were from consensual BDSM, not abuse. Jason Traver, 41, appeared before Superior Court Justice Daniel Shalley, I think, where a jury found Traver not guilty for the crime of second-degree assault, serious injury with reckless behavior, a Class B felony. Jennifer Traver, Jason's wife, has maintained for years that her injuries were a result of consensual BDSM sexual behaviors that are a regular part of their relationship. It all started in 2019 when their kids saw marks and bruises on her face. They went to school. They apparently told a teacher who called the authorities. At the time, according to a news story on the case, Jennifer refused to tell authorities what had happened to her, but Jason told authorities that a verbal argument had turned physical the night before, at which point police placed Jason Traver under arrest, according to court documents. In the initial police report, Jennifer Traver was observed as having a black eye, bruising around her throat, and dried blood coming from one of her ears and on her clothing. Medical records substantiated police findings and further indicated that Jennifer had suffered a cerebral hematoma, causing minor bleeding in the brain from being punched, which Jennifer Traver later denied, telling doctors while taking the stand on Monday. In 2020, so a few months after all this happened, Jennifer wrote a letter to the editor of the Anchorage Press detailing what she says happened and how the district attorney's office responded to her, telling her that they didn't believe her. So all of this happened in 2019. She goes public and on the record in her local newspaper about their BDSM life in 2020. By the time it gets to trial in like 2022, 2023, jury finds him not guilty. Go ahead. What are your initial thoughts?
You know, when you sent me this ahead of time.
I did. For once, I did.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
did.
keep it from him.
And I started reading through these this morning while I was having my coffee. And when I first started reading this story, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
you know,
for once, consensual BDSM got somebody off.
For once, you
Found
know,
not guilty.
consensual BDSM has been treated in the courts,
Right, as an
you know,
actual defense.
as an actual thing.
Right, right.
Then I kept reading. And, you know, hearing about the blood and the cerebral hemorrhaging.
Right.
And I'm like, no.
Right.
No.
And also that the night of the arrest, nobody was saying consensual BDSM.
Right.
What was said is, oh, we got into an altercation. Oopsie, my
Yeah.
bad. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Yes, that
Okay.
part got me too.
You know, it was doing good up until that part. Once it got to that part, it lost me. You know, and the thing too, if you are doing BDSM right, I mean, as we know, you've had bruises before
Sure.
on your butt. You know, other soft places. We have engaged in some slapping, which is something that you've come to like. But one thing, you know, when it comes to your face,
Right.
never, ever.
Oh, you got to be so careful.
Right. I mean, yes, you have to be careful. You have to know how to do it. You have to know what you're doing, because there are many ways you can cause injury from that. And, you know, no, never have left bruises
No.
on the face. And bruises from choking?
I guess, so I can conceivably see how it could happen, because I can imagine somebody not playing safely, people like not taking the risks seriously, going too far, you know, being a person who bruises easily and not thinking about that in a moment. Like, the part of me that can give a lot of benefit of the doubt can see that. I think the part that blows my mind is that there was not an immediate, even though I can also understand this, there was not an immediate, we were getting kinky and this was a
Right.
result. And I can understand why somebody might not immediately say that. But also, if at some point you're willing to go so far on the record that you have a letter to the editor published under your legal name with the details, then I'm like, what has changed in that time? Maybe desperation. I also think about this person she had just had a baby, but it was not her first baby. So she even says in her letter to the editor, where did I close it? That was dumbass of me. I opened the link and then apparently I closed it. So let me see. She said very specifically that her husband and they have been married for 11 years and have 4 children together. We engaged in consensual BDSM sex back in September. That was 2019. I had recently had an emergency C-section with our 4th baby about 3 weeks prior. I requested that my husband slap my face, choke, and bite me, along with oral sex and mutual masturbation. The slaps to the face were out of our normal pattern with the body because of the surgery. So 2 things there. That makes sense to me, that you're like, I want to get kinky. I know you cannot go to this part of my body, come up to this part, and if that is outside of their usual pattern, I can understand how mistakes would be made.
Right.
That you don't know enough. But I'm curious, and it's none of our business, and these folks need to get to live their life in peace, but I'm curious about how you already had children, like this was not your first rodeo, and didn't immediately have a plan in place for how to handle your children of whatever ages they were at the time, seeing the marks on your face. Now, I think in her letter to the editor, she even says, we were going to talk to the kids later that day, like once they got home from school. But, and I can see it. I can see how that would happen. But also maybe it's hindsight being 2020 and it's easy to have answers when you're not in the situation. I'm just like, what I personally would not do as a parent is let my kids go out through the day without something to tell them.
Right. And you know, here's another thing, and it was brought up in the live chat just recently, you know, about having bruises that are visible. Okay? You know, one of the big things, you know, as part of engaging in safe play, you know, you do a checklist with somebody you play with, you know, asking, are bruises okay?
Right.
All right. You know, if they are okay, you know, does it matter where they are? When we first met, you were working in an office.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
You could not,
nothing
that could be visible.
Nothing that can be visible outside of the clothes that you wear.
Right. No.
So,
but you know what? Those were the conversations we had when we met 10 years ago.
Right.
Think about it. They were married for 11 years. They had been into kink for however long they'd been into it. Some of those conversations, should we have them even now? Of course we should, especially if we're going to do something new. But we don't approach kink with the same rigor. Like we do in that if it's brand new to us, you're not doing a damn thing until you've researched it. We're going to test slowly. We're going to whatever. But very rarely do we sit down for a very structured conversation to do like a checklist or do a back and forth. We have very casual conversations and we feel like we know each other's skill level, limits, whatever. And in the shorthand that happens in long-term relationships, I can conceivably see it going wrong because you think, well, I don't have to ask all the questions. That's incorrect. You definitely do.
Yeah.
But I feel like the thing that struck me when I first read this original story, I didn't even know that the letter to the editor, like, I don't even think I saw that about that anywhere. I was just like, reading the initial story, that first I was like, damn, somebody was able to use consensual BDSM as a defense and they were found not guilty. And the way it was kind of presented in certain parts of the article was like, that's awesome, because usually what you find is, well, you can't consent to harm, and there are court cases in the U.S. that have basically stated a consensual BDSM cannot be used as a defense, right? So it was nice to see this, and this happened in Alaska for anybody who hadn't. I wasn't clear about that. But then it got to the part where it's like, but this is what happened the night of, and hey, this was actually consensual BDSM didn't come out from the people involved for like a few weeks or months. Like we started in 2019 with this looks like domestic abuse, and depending on the state, and I don't know if counties or cities would have their own local laws, but I know states have their laws that sometimes if a police officer thinks it's domestic abuse, it does not matter what the other party says. The other party can be like, I was not abused, I'm fine, and the police get to make their own judgment. I don't think that's not true everywhere, but I know it's true in some places. So based on the information they were being presented, that they're on the record as saying that they did not tell them that it was BDSM the night of. That's where I went, wait, why are we waiting all this time to go, hey, by the way, this is BDSM?
And see, that spun me back. You know, that gave me popped up a little bit of flag in the beginning when I started reading it. But, and it kind of goes back to a workshop I took many years ago. And it was actually presented by a paramedic who was in lifestyle. And one of the things that he kind of pressed in the workshop was that if something goes wrong and the police EMT are called, first thing they're going to do is separate
Right.
both parties, because that's, what they have to do. Said, tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the truth. We were engaging in this type of play and it went wrong. As long as both stories match.
Right.
And there's no,
depending on if there's anything specific that the police know about, that, it doesn't matter if it's BDSM or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
But at least be upfront and
Right.
honest about what happened. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not, it could be a whole lot worse.
And I feel like this if it is factual that was BDSM play gone kind of wrong, then I think this is that's a case in point of this happening. Obviously we cannot possibly know what really went on. This is all speculation,
conjecture. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I saw more things in stark contrast, but I just see the nuance. I can absolutely see where people who are so private about their kink life, like maybe they're afraid of their family finding out, maybe they're afraid, like losing a job, whatever, who keep quiet about it until they think they have no other option. And I can conceivably see somebody going, we'll let this blow over. As the person who's showing the bruises going, I wasn't abused. It's fine. I asked for this in some way, or whatever was said. I could, and until that, it's clear that that's not going to help or work.
Right.
I could see somebody going, you know what? The choices between losing my privacy and anonymity or protecting my partner who didn't do anything wrong in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bold move, because the thing is, if this was about maintaining anonymity and staying private and not having anybody know, to do the letter to the editor, which is still searchable and findable today, because that's how I found it through a Google search. That's a bold move, because she's putting her name on, we are in a consensual BDSM relationship. And I can't help but wonder, I wish there were more stories. I did not do a deep dive investigative kind of thing. I did a quick searches to see what I could find. I wish I kind of knew more about what the jury was told and what they heard, because I'm wondering if it was the pure boldness of being so open and saying, look, I'm standing here under oath. I'm standing here to the public, to the masses, saying I do BDSM and this was consensual. Yeah. If that didn't have some sway, that's powerful. A lot of people wouldn't do that.
I know, and they wouldn't. But I still have serious questions when it comes to the fact that he had bruising from being choked, had a brain hemorrhage.
I
know. That is some
serious, and for it to be an obvious enough and look bad enough in some way that the kids went to school and said something to somebody.
And a black eye and all.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what? And you know what? Everybody's different, and I don't know enough about post-surgery things, but my very limited understanding is, post-surgery, depending on medications you're on, depending on your recovery. I mean, again, I go benefit of the doubt. What if they thought they were just doing play that went bad, and because she was so close to post-op and recovery, that her body responded differently than normal? Right. I personally, as a parent, would not have allowed my children to leave that day until I'd had some kind of age-appropriate conversation with them. I know mom looks bad right now. I just want you to know that I'm okay. Nothing bad happened. Do you have questions? We can talk about this when you get home.
Yeah.
I do understand that panic, though, of not knowing what to say to a kid. That moment on every topic ever is very real. So I can, again, the initial story when I saw that gap between when they admitted it was BDSM gave me pause, but then that letter,
even that, though, that gives me a little pause on this. Because it's not like, I mean, we have kids. All right. We got together. Boys were fairly young. And we did not engage in things that were blatant to them. One, were not, and technically still are not, of age of consent.
To be need to be around it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and So that to me right there
Right.
is something as well. You know, if you have kids, you know, if you want to play rough like that, have a family member watch your
questions
kids
about
and go off and
Playing
and
that
play.
rough 3 weeks post C-section.
Well, there's that too. Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, everybody's different and needs are different and desires and how that comes upon you and when you start feeling it. But I just, is that what she really wanted, or did she have a partner who
Yeah.
made her feel like that's what needed to be, and then mistakes are I don't know. But to go to that full-throated defense,
Yeah.
that I don't know. We will not know, and it's just fascinating.
And I mean that's the other thing too. You know, there's the fact of her having just had a baby, you know, and that always goes back to the things we talk about when you play. You know, you need to take your partner's health into consideration at the time that you're playing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, you do a check-in. You know, how are you feeling? You know, have you taken your meds? You know, do you take meds? You know,
Right.
what have you taken?
What
you know,
do you take anything that could be impacted by what
right.
we're about to do?
What you know, where are you at emotionally? These are things you need to know before you play. You know,
And people in long-term relationships, especially marriages, will forget that because the shorthand is
True.
strong. You
True.
forget to
True.
do the serious, in-depth. Not everybody does, obviously, but it is easy to forget to go through kind of that kind of checklist that you would with a brand new partner, or somebody you don't play with frequently, or somebody you don't see frequently, or somebody where you've got nearly every interaction still has that structure to it. I can see where I can speculate all day long about how he probably maybe didn't do things that were quite right. I certainly have questions about the length of time from the time of the arrest, the police were called in the arrest, to when somebody finally went, wait, this was kinky and this was consensual. The part where I land on it, something went wrong somewhere, clearly, just the state of the injuries documented.
Right.
But what I go back to is not just a full-throated defense of a partner, which people who are victims of abuse can still do, like out of fear, out of whatever, like all kinds of reasons. But a full-throated, open defense of this relationship and BDSM, where you literally remove any privacy and anonymity you have for that.
Right.
That, I mean, that is powerful, because, you know, if it was about defense of the husband just in general, but still wanting to maintain your privacy on your personal life, you could defend it. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't abuse. It was whatever. With I don't know. I got questions, and I'm fascinated.
And you know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about what you said, you know, about long-term couples, and I have a little bit of a hard time with that. I do. Because that would be like me 2 years ago when you had your surgery.
Sure.
3 weeks after your surgery saying, come on, we are going to play, and I am not holding back.
The person who ended up being accused of a crime was a great example of dominance. I'm not making that. I don't have enough information to make that claim. I'm not saying that the choice wasn't maybe reckless and dangerous just in general. And what we will never know is who came up with that idea for real and who pushed for it, and like what were all of the nuances of that relationship, right? And how are things maybe not great and weren't great, or went wrong, or somebody was selfish. Like I can speculate all day long, and I can certainly weave a story where not all men but that damn man, but I'm not going to do that because I don't have that information. But I also know that the reason you and I don't know about anybody else's situation, but the reason you and I are super thoughtful about it is because this is what we do for a living. We are conscious every moment of our relationship that we are trying to live a certain way. And because it's a benefit and a curse when you talk about the lifestyle or anything professionally. You get better at it because you have to think about it more than probably the average person, but you're also extremely aware of where you're fucking up.
True.
And the average person who's just living their life and is not thinking about it to this depth every day, can easily just forget all the basics, especially once you're in an established relationship long term. Because I've just had the conversations with people, too many people who think they don't have to negotiate anymore. They've been doing this 10 years. Well, no, the negotiation is constant and ongoing. It just takes a different form. Yeah. People will think, well, I know how we play and all this, so this new thing won't be that different now. More responsible kinksters don't necessarily think that way, but also, we don't know the type of people they were. We don't know anything about that. Yeah. And if one or both were less than great people, all kinds of things can probably be safely assumed. Yeah. We don't know that. Okay. So, yeah, I'm giving side eye to all of it. Yeah. All of it. I mean, and think about it. The initial thing was, wow, consensual BDSM was successfully used as a defense. But then you dig and you're like, oh, fuck. Which is ironic because typically what it is consensual BDSM doesn't work as a defense. And when you dig into it, you're like, fuck, this was consensual BDSM. This sucks that it couldn't be a good defense. So the irony is not lost to me. But do you see what I mean when I say some of these stories give me thoughts? Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. We're going to move to something a little more lighthearted, okay? Actually, the next two are things that divide the internet. So here we go. Let's divide our internet while we're here. Okay. So the next one is, and UK folks will know of this person probably more. I don't even know if I'm going to be accurate when I describe this person. I pulled it from the stories. But basically what the question from this story is, was this person kink shaming the act of choking? Okay. Because it apparently lit up the internet for about 30 seconds, especially in the UK, right? So this is from a UK story about an ITV, which is a channel station, I don't know what they call it, presenter. She's a talk show host and apparently a radio host as well, named Lorraine Kelly, age 63. Now, to me, age don't matter, but everybody I've came across this story all wanted to point out that she's basically, what they're saying is she's an old, okay? But 63 ain't that far from JB's 61 and a half, so whatever. Anyway, she says she's open-minded about a lot of things, but, quote, draws the line at people choking each other. So this comes from, she was asked about an article that had been in one of the papers or whatever that discussed how porn is affecting the sex lives of Generation Z. And that's been a huge hot topic around the internet in my circles for a while. Yeah. Okay. I mean, because this is the generation that's had access to the internet basically almost from birth. Day one, yeah. Right. And so they're going to be impacted differently. And that article stated that 58% of women in the US had experienced being choked during sex. In the UK, there had been another study done that 2 million women under 40 have reported unwanted choking during sex. So choking as a, air quote this, real big, common standard thing of sex, the correlation has been porn is the big problem for that, and it's really like an edge play form of kink where people can get really hurt. Yeah. But it's kind of, the idea's been mainstreamed, and we've had conversations about that before, sort of, and I know Evie has, where it's like, what the fuck is going on, where shorthand for I'm kinky is choke me, baby, and it's like, what are we doing, right? So we've kind of had those conversations. So that's the context for where her comments came from. She'd been reading these reports, she'd seen this information, whatever. So she revealed that she and her husband Steve had read this article, and her husband went, what the hell is going on? And then she says, we were absolutely, she goes, there's not many things, and she began baffled before explaining, because we tend to be pretty broad-minded. And he was like, what the hell is this? And I said, I have absolutely no idea. The couple discussed the article together and were left shocked, wondering, is that what the young people are doing out there? I mean, I was really shocked by that. She added that on top of everything else, she was worried about the safety of young women, admitting, I don't know the rules, and it is a worry, it's scary. I don't want to see women in that environment. I don't think it's right. So then what I came across was a response to this article who was scathing in their criticism, calling this person, Lorraine Kelly, out for kink shaming choking. Okay. based on the comments that I could access. There may be more context that I haven't found.
Right.
So I will admit that could be it. So based on the what the hell is going on, knowing those stats that she was reading, knowing about the mainstreaming as choking as air quote common, it's not, it shouldn't be, what the fuck are we doing? And that people are experiencing unwanted choking in sexual encounters that are not inherently kinky. They've not negotiated. They don't think they're doing anything kinky, and here they are getting choked. This is the reaction I need to know, John Brownstone, based on this information. Do you think they were being kink shamey?
Based on what I have read here, I would have to. I would have to say no.
No, I think that's a rational reaction, quite frankly.
I'm not taking any of it as shaming.
No.
What I am seeing is no, I'm not going to use that word. That's too strong. But a lack of knowledge.
Oh God, yeah. And if
a lack of knowledge about what it is and what it should be.
If all you seem to know about sex is from what you've seen in porn, because too many of every generation, certainly, but including the current, do not have access to quality sex ed, and you're getting your sex ed, which you should not, from porn, and you think that's just what you're supposed to do during sex now, because you've gone down a road of thinking porn is teaching you something, and not understanding or not using it as the fantasy that it's meant to be.
Exactly. No different than reading erotica.
And then you're showing up into sexual encounters and without conversation, without planning, without knowing the risks, and in too many cases, without consent, choking somebody because you think that's what's supposed to happen. That is
I think
alarming.
I think blowing this up to the point of saying that it's kink shaming is really hiding the underlying issue of what is there with this, as far as, yes, too many people, especially young people, because they have no understanding that porn is not real.
Right. Please don't use this as a how-to. It does not work out well.
Yeah, don't use it. If you're going to engage in something, there needs to be consent, not just, during the heat of the moment, start choking somebody.
Right.
Not good. And, if you are going to engage in something like that, learn how to do it correctly.
Right.
So you don't hurt somebody.
And to sort of understand that it comes under the umbrella of BDSM, and for many, not all, I understand not all, but for many people, it's considered a form of edge play. My opinion is it should be, because even there are ways to play where you don't do this, but you're simulating or actually taking away somebody's breath. Serious harm can occur.
Right.
Even when you're being as safe as you know how to be, and you've mitigated as many risks and all of it, real harm can occur. I feel like if the quotes I had read based on the context that I saw had been like, anybody into choking is an awful human being, that's kink shame.
Right.
To express alarm that what you're reading is a lot of the younger generation are, and I'm going to air quote this because I don't know what this means. I think this means different things. Into choking, or that it's air quote common. But then you also read how many people are reporting non-consensual, unwanted experiences of that. That's a valid fucking conversation to have.
Right.
I'm going to do pushback if you go, well, anybody who's into choking is awful and they're all, dangerous and they should never do it. That's kink shame, because yes, there's a valid conversation to be had about it is one of a million elements of BDSM. There is a way to engage in it that is risky, but that acknowledges the risks and it tries to mitigate the harm and be safe with it. There are even ways to play with it where you don't actually remove anybody's breath and you just simulate it and all of these things. But from what I could tell, that ain't what we were talking about. And while I think that we do need more conversations in the mainstream about how, there are these kinks and they are legit and there are ways to engage that, people go to great lengths to try to do it as safely as possible. And it is an element. I think that's fine. I think the person I came across that sort of wrote this defense, it made sense, but the part that struck me personally was the argument that they were making about the kink shaming did not feel like it was in alignment with what had actually been said. Yes, older people, okay, read an article that talked about unwanted choking amongst other parts of choking. I think the article was more like that was one element, and they were talking about choking as a phenomenon. And went, what the fuck? I think many people would go, what the fuck? I don't think asking that inherent question of what the hell is going on here is inherently kink shaming.
No.
And if you know that it's happening unwanted too often, I think you get to be concerned about that.
There's a deeper issue here. Yeah.
Right. So...
Take a breath.
I know. Like, I sometimes I feel I start to feel my age, in general, and like my internet age, meaning like I just feel old on the internet sometimes, because I will see people just going at it about how something was very kink shamey, and I'll go read it and I'm like, look, I can squint my eyes, cock my head, and like grimace and go, yeah, I guess that's kink shamey. But sometimes it's a genuine, like, here's the thing. I do not expect non-kinksters to approach kink topics. I don't expect them to do it thoughtfully. When they do, that's a pleasant surprise. I don't expect them to approach something with any amount of knowledge of kink and to ask the questions that we as kinksters ought to be asking. I kind of expect the non-kinksters of the world to look at elements of kink and go, what the fuck? I personally do not think of that as inherently kink shaming. Now, when they're what the fuck, what is wrong with you, what is wrong with people, that's a little kink shaming. But why are we surprised if non-kinksters are a little freaked out by kink?
I mean, here's the thing too, and this shocked me, because today's kids, like you said, pretty much when they were born into the digital age, okay? They don't know anything, they don't know life without it.
Right.
So I have talked to and heard from a great number of young folks who, because of that, already started gaining a knowledge of BDSM before they were even of legal age to engage.
Sure.
And I kind of, okay.
We can't condone it, but we know what happens.
We can't condone it, but we know what happens, right. They come into the lifestyle at the legal age, and they have at least an understanding of what is right and what is wrong.
Right.
So it kind of throws me a little bit too to read something like this, that this is happening unwanted. There's always going to be that margin of people,
right?
But the information is out there on things like this.
Yeah, but you have to know that the information's out there. You have to know what to call it to go looking for it. You have to give two shits to go looking for it. Like, there's so much information on every single topic that nobody could possibly live their life, and every time they come across something they don't understand, take the time to Google every fucking thing and do a deep dive. So while I wish that the idea of BDSM, and when it's consensual, and risk mitigation and assessment and safety precautions and the things that are important in the lifestyle that make it at least minimum a decent experience for people who engage in it. I wish that was more mainstream. I wish that was more understood. I wish that was more of a second nature. Like, I'm hearing about BDSM and no, I don't get it, but I at a higher level, at a bystander's level, I know a couple of good things. That's not the world we live in right now.
I know. I mean, is this a they say what is old is new again. A number of years ago, there was a whole thing about asphyxiation enhancing orgasms.
Right, yeah.
And people were dying from it. So is that this coming back around again?
Probably. Everything that's old is new again. Right. I don't know. I didn't take the comments that I came across as kink shamey. They made sense to me assuming that person doesn't know anything about kink. Quite frankly, sure, I would like the non-kinksters of the world not to kink shame, but I don't. I want to be careful how I say this. I don't accept kink shaming. I don't. I wish it didn't happen, but it is more understandable to me from an outsider's perspective. Where kink shaming really pisses me off is when it's coming from within the community.
Yeah.
Like, y'all, you are already into something that non-kinksters would think you're fucked in the head for. So why are you going to point the finger at somebody within your own fucking community who's doing something you don't understand? Like, fuck that shit. Cut that out, right? That pisses me off because it's hypocritical. Like, you are within the community and people will judge you for what you're doing. Stop fucking judging others. But from outside, from people who, from what we know, are not into kink at all, don't know anything about it, sure, I'd like them to say things differently and maybe come across as less judgmental, but what the fuck do we expect? It would be nice if non-kinksters, and there are, I know we have non-kinksters who listen to our show, watch us on YouTube, like our content. They're not even into kink, but we haven't scared them away yet. Hi, I see you. Do I wish there were more non-kinksters like that? Yes. Do I think access to high quality sex ed, age appropriate, kind of sex ed could help that? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
But in the world we live in the reality we're living in, I'm going to be a lot less pissy about a non-kinkster appearing shamey than I am anyone else. Because I expect
but I can't, words.
I feel ya.
There are places out there for young people. What was that site?
Scarletine.
Mm-hmm.
I like them.
For young people to...
I think even Planned Parenthood had some... I mean, they have, like, general sex information. I think they might even have, like, sex ed. I mean, I think they might have a little bit on kink as well. I'm not 100% sure. Scarletine does. Planned Parenthood had some sex ed. There are sex educators out there on the internet trying to bring this information forward for people. The information is there. The access to it, especially if it's not sanctioned by a school or a government, and so it's just stuff on the internet that kids may or may not find. Somebody pointed out in the live chat, information's out there, but is it correct? There's a lot of bad information online as well, parading around, and masking is good information, and if you don't know any fucking better, you think that's what it is, right? Like, there's that's like,
you mean everything on the internet's not true?
I mean, that's what Abraham Lincoln said.
Yeah.
So my final verdict is I did not take this as kink shamey. Based on the context, I didn't have the same reaction because I was aware of the choking kind of issues. Yeah. But also, I would have had a similar reaction. Mine would have been more nuanced because I have context, because I'm in the lifestyle, because of all the things that this other person is not. Okay, so we're going to go to another one where the internet had opinions. And I, who would never link to a site like TMZ, did link because they had screenshots of tweets to show what the internet thought about this. And this one, in my mind, is the opposite of the previous one. Okay, so there's a show called Obsession on Netflix. Sometimes I see it called an erotic thriller, and sometimes I actually see it labeled a BDSM
Is it a movie
thriller.
or
It's a
a
series.
series?
It's a series. And there's a scene that apparently set the non-kinky world ablaze. For anybody, I don't think the scene I'm about to describe is an actual true spoiler, but if you are a person who's like, I don't want any information about a show before I watch it, skip this one. This is our final one, because it is apparently, I think, episode 2 of the first season, and there's a specific scene and the internet lost its shit over it. So let's talk about it. Okay, so Obsession is an erotic thriller. Like I said, I've seen it labeled a BDSM thriller, and it's an adaptation of a book called Damage by Josephine Hart. A quick synopsis, and this is incomplete, but it's a real quick one, is that a man named William falls in love with his soon-to-be daughter-in-law. So his son's fiancée, Anna, I don't know, who's trying to keep, she's into William. She's trying to keep the relationship with her fiance. And then the synopsis goes, but the truth always comes to light and someone is going to be hurt. And his obsession is a sexual kinky obsession. Okay. So the part that made the internet freak out is a specific scene in which, I guess Anna and her fiance were like on vacation somewhere, and William had followed them to the destination, and she leaves her hotel room or checks out of her hotel room. I've seen two different explanations. And William manages to get a key to her room before it's cleaned up. Okay? Finds her unmade bed, sheets, pillow, even like a tissue with her lipstick on it, and enjoys the smell of her on the bed sheets, the pillow. Apparently the scene is driven around the pillow primarily, and he masturbates. I think he like masturbates on the pillow to the pillow, but basically he's turned on by the fact that she was there. He's sniffing her sheets and her body was, and he jacks off. Okay? And apparently this horrified the internet. They called it nasty. They called it cringe. Someone compared it to that scene in American Pie. If you are not familiar, there is masturbation into a literal apple pie. They compared it to that, but said what made this scene an obsession so bad is that it was so earnest. Like it wasn't trying to be stupid. It was like, in terms of the characters, heartfelt. And so the reason I say this one is the opposite of that last one, because all of those reactions I linked to two different places where they were showing tweets where people were freaking out. That was kink shaming. That was kink shaming to the hilt, because to smell somebody's stuff, sheets or whatever, is an actual kink. To get off on the smell of somebody that you like. Now, we have not watched the show, and it kind of now makes me want to watch the show. Yeah. Because I want to have a more informed opinion. But the first article I read about this scene and how the internet was freaking out was a site I kind of like. They are called Hype Bay. And they actually said, we're not trying to kink shame, but what the fuck was that about? And all I could go was, you are kink shame. You're not meaning to, like, you're being nicer about it. Like, you're not being overly judgmental, but that's a thing that, and that's not even, I mean, I guess you can label it kinky, but it's not necessarily kinky. You can literally sniff your partner's sheets and be like, oh my God, it's them, and want to jack off. Like, if you want to label that kinky, that's fine. I wouldn't automatically label it kinky, but also now here's the thing. Let's pretend these people are real and they don't have this obsession with one another and trying to maintain this relationship. And apparently there's a whole bunch of kinky shit in this show. It really does make me want to watch it. When the kids are nowhere near to here.
Yeah, right.
But if we were talking about a real life situation where a real life person does not know that this guy is obsessed with her and he comes in and does that, I'm going to go, that's fucking creepy because are you stalking her? Like, what is happening? Right. And I think in the show, it can kind of be said that he's stalking her, but they end up obsessed with one another. They end up wanting to be together. Yeah. So, and I don't know how soon into the series. So, given the context of the show, I'm like, it's not cringe. It's not nasty. It's not your thing. That's okay.
Well,
but what?
I do find it a little cringy.
Okay.
Okay. And I think for the most part, if it was just William and Anna, I in a way I wouldn't think twice about the behavior.
Right.
Okay. But the fact that it's his son,
the whole situation's fucked. It's so fucked up.
I mean, that to me is some weird shit.
The thing is the situation is fucked up because, yes, he is enamored with and having an affair with his literal future daughter-in-law, and his son, her fiance, has no fucking clue, at least at some point. I'm wondering, I'm sure he finds out. He's got to at some point. Doesn't that usually happen? I don't know. But what we're talking about is people who are known to either be in a relationship or kind of obsessed with one another, or who will be. That's like the trajectory of the story. Yeah. And is it questionable behavior? Sure. But but it's not the sniff the sheets, hump the pillow is not the questionable behavior. It's the, I followed you on vacation and I somehow managed, I don't know how, to get a key to a room I was not supposed to have access to. Well, that's the questionable behavior.
If I remember correctly, he actually went to her before they left the hotel and asked her for the key.
Did you read this book? Or did you watch the show?
Neither.
Oh,
but
you went into the...
Because
I gave you the information.
I'm pretty sure that's what I read. And I may be wrong, but...
I saw some varying accounts. I couldn't keep up.
So, is it kind of cringy? Yeah, to a certain extent.
Is it literally the nastiest thing you've ever come across? I can't imagine.
No.
I don't think so.
You know what it makes me think of? And oh my gosh, I devoured those books back in the day. Cannot remember the title, but I remember the author, V.C. Andrews.
Oh, Flowers in the Attic.
Flowers in the Attic.
That was some... I was allowed to read it at like age 10 when I knew nothing and had no context and was obsessed with all of them. I think they would not hold up upon... They shouldn't have held up then, but I didn't have context. I should not have been allowed to read those books. My parents had no fucking clue what was in them.
But I mean, it's different, but yet it kind of strikes me in a same vein type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there were people. I could imagine if Flowers in the Attic was just being published today.
Well, I think it was made into recently a series, or it was going to be made. Really? I think so. I'd have to double check that.
What that would do to the internet.
Oh my God, it could not handle. They would have to make some serious changes to how it's presented.
I mean, it was a crazy ass ride reading those books, and there was a whole series
and I was obsessed with it
that followed these kids through.
Part of me wants to reread it to figure out what the hell was I actually reading, because my memory is spotty with it. I remember how it made me feel. I remembered how into it I was, but I remember there being parts where I did not quite understand what was happening, and then there being parts where it was clear, and we're talking about Flowers in the Attic series now, it was clear that to adults in the story and or things I might have heard from other adults in my life who maybe read them, that bad things were happening, but in the places where bad things were happening, my little kid brain, and literally from like ages 10 to 12, I read so fucking many of these books and then started owning them when I was like 13. Anyway, because I had money then and could like buy them. I did not see what was so wrong with them. So part of me wants to go I know now with the context of what I understand the books, but now I kind of want to go back and reread them.
So, I mean, do I find it a bit cringy? Yeah. Not knowing the whole context of the story of the book, it's hard to say.
The reason this one gave me thoughts and feels, especially because it was a little bit in this one. I don't think I had it to compare to the lady in the UK being horrified by the sheer amount of choking that occurs. I didn't have that one to compare it to, but I did in the original link I posted, because like I said, I'll come across a story and it'll be so kink shamey and kind of make me feel gross that I refuse to link to it. So I try to go find something kind of neutral. And this was the most neutral I could find, and it's a source I've linked to before. I'm like, okay, they're mostly okay. But even though we're not kink shaming here, and then the but was sort of like implied, or maybe it wasn't written, and I was like, this is definitely kink shaming. Like, because the critique was not, what the fuck he's stalking her, what the fuck he wants to fuck his future daughter-in-law. That was never the critique. The critique was solely on, what do you mean you sniff sheets and jack off? Well, there are people who do that. There are people who would not call themselves kinky who do that. Like, that was the part you had a problem with, internet. Not the grown-ass man wanting to or actually fucking future daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
Now, the scenes and the trailer and the little bits, the clips I've seen, and it's hard, when they give you a clip, they try and give you like their best or their most, so sometimes that's the best part and then the rest of a thing is crap. But in those clips I've seen, the intensity, the longing, the we know this is wrong, but we can't help that feels very intense. Like I'm drawn in when I watch those clips. So, but yeah.
I mean, maybe it's something we need to watch and kind of, see for ourselves what.
Absolutely. I did not include it in this one. This was our last one.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently the BBC has an adaptation of Great Expectations. Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. And there's a BDSM, either just a scene or like an element. And people are pissed.
Really?
I'm like, well, now I kind of want to fucking watch it.
Really? I think I used to be a big fan of CSI Las Vegas. Yeah. Especially in the early days when Grissom was on the show. And they are one of the first shows that I can remember at that time that they did an episode centered around BDSM on mainstream network television at that time. And I was kind of impressed. They did, from what I remember, after all, it's been a few years now, but they did a pretty decent job of presenting it. I was kind of impressed. So,
media is capable of showing BDSM in a non-judgmental, like, well done way.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that the only way it happens is there's probably a kinkster in the writer's room. And right now, nobody's in a writer's room because they're all on strike.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
But I think that's kind of what it takes. I've seen a couple of, like...
Glad you're not on strike. You had to put together the show notes.
I know, right? And I have seen people from time to time mention shows that they've watched or movies that they've watched where somebody being into a specific kink or kink in general or BDSM was handled in a way where it wasn't made a big deal. It was explained by the character neutrally enough and well enough that you went, okay. And it was not the reason that the people were villains. It was not the dark, scary thing that occurs. It was not, it wasn't demonized.
Right.
Or the other way where it's maybe not demonized, but it's portrayed so awfully. You're like, oh God, please non-kinky people don't think this is what it's like. It's not really supposed to be like that. It can occur. It's just still too rare. And I think I could not finish reading. I never even started because I tried to read a couple paragraphs of 50 Shades and couldn't get through one page. So I never read them. I did not watch the movies. So when I watched the movie trailers for the 50 Shades movies, I got that secondhand embarrassment, and I will avoid that feeling at all costs. So I was not interested. I know, and we've said this before, I know established long-term kinksters who fucking love that shit, and I know new-ish, like air quote that, kinksters who figured out they were kinky because of that series. So I'm not dogging it, but, it is a common example used of how it's portrayed badly, written badly, whatever. Secretary, my personal favorite of the BDSM movies that tend to be on lists, is dark, and that's not a BDSM relationship that's structured with any best practices in mind. And it's, a criticism I see is that, these two people were damaged and that's what made them kinky, and that pisses me off, blah, blah, blah. And that is probably a fair, critique of the movie. I fucking loved it. I've said it before. First time I watched it, I didn't know I was watching anything kinky. I just knew I was really drawn to it. And then the second time, I knew what I was looking at, and I was really, really drawn to it. What I would say, though, outside of billionaires and their secretaries or billionaires and their ingenues and their whatever, and that part, the awkward, bad, not always having full conversations, the using kink as therapy instead of letting it be therapeutic, it's not what we want BDSM to be. It's not best practices. It's not risk aware. It's not any of that. But I'll tell you that people do have those experiences. I don't want all of I wish those experiences could be portrayed with context so that it's like, yes, people do get to this kinky point in their life this way, but there are healthier ways. There are air quote the word safer ways. There are maybe better ways to get there, but and that's also a separate and valid critique, and it's one I agree with that. But when people get pissed that secretary's not realistic, well, nothing with some boss and their secretary usually is. So I hope we weren't watching these thinking that it was supposed to be a documentary. Like, I don't know. I think part of the problem is there's so few kink portrayals in media that when we get one, we're like, fuck, that's imperfect. And then we have to pick it apart because we're like, but we know it could be better.
I'm having a moment out here.
JB, if for podcast listeners, JB has left not just the microphone, but the building because Lola's losing her shit in the backyard. I don't know. I wish we had better media representation. I wish that BDSM in age appropriate ways and in places where it makes sense could be talked about in ways that aren't shamey, demonizing, making it the bad thing. People talking about how they've got the ick. Like, okay, there are a lot of things that give me the fucking ick, but I also know that it does them for other people and they get to talk about that shit. But like, I don't know. I would like a BDSM media representation utopia that we just don't fucking live in. So, Lola, are you done causing trouble out there in the backyard?
Stirring up the neighbors.
Don't stir up the neighbors. Don't.
I tried to tell you, we like our neighbors.
We do, and we want them to like us. So, those are our rambles of a few headlines. These are 3 from the past, I think, month, and each newsletter had more than just one of these. Like, it was usually 2, 3, even 4. Some weeks are lighter than others, but I always try and find at least 2 if I can. So yeah, there's lots more stuff out there. There was one that part of me kind of wants to, I'm not the type to want to do a deep dive, investigate all the things, because my brain gets very overwhelmed thinking about it. But there was one article that was about erotic hypnosis and some shady shit going on and how it fucked over some people's lives because the practitioner was
less than
bad news. But that's one that's big enough. I think it would deserve like a whole episode. But like all kinds of, yeah, there's more kink in, I call it in the news, but sometimes it's like a news outlet and sometimes it's just like one of those websites that publishes something about everything. But there's probably a lot more than you might realize.
Yeah.
So it's fun kind of trying to finding it or coming across it and then realizing I have opinions. So that's all I got. You got anything else?
I'm good.
Now that you've calmed Lola the hell down?
Yeah.
So that's it for us. I hope this was interesting, sparked some thoughts, gave you something to like want to go read and learn more about and figure out your own opinion on. If you like this kind of thing, we would not do it like all the time, but if you like this kind of thing, let us know. Comments, social media, reply to newsletters, and we can do it more often. And I think that's it.
Are we good?
I don't know. Keep it kinky, y'all. And we'll see you next week. Daddy.
Yes, baby girl.
Can I talk to the crickets, please?
You have been doing a lot of talking. Are you sure you want to keep talking?
My throat hurts.
I've got to look after you.
I want to do whatever my daddy tells me that I'm going to do.
Okay. Turn it around on me, huh?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Okay. I got nothing to talk about.
Oh, my God. If I were in your shoes, I would be a lot more careful because you know what's going to happen. Didn't happen before. It's going to happen after.
It's a good thing I don't wear shoes. I just hurt myself. I know we have not done a recording yet for the spicy side of loving BDSM, and I probably will pay for that because I haven't even gotten a hint of what we're doing this week. So I don't know, but Yeah, I don't. I was telling YouTube folks during what we call the butt rub, podcast listeners, if you didn't know that yet, we have a butt rub section. It's the warm up, okay, before we get into the episode. Had to do the mom thing and take the youngest to the pediatrician today for an annual. He's fine. He's growing like a weed. Everybody was like, he is so tall, and poor thing, he was already feeling awkward. He knew a certain part of the exam that was coming up and he was dreading it. Also, he's around people he doesn't know and recognize, and he didn't want to answer any questions, and everybody's just exclaiming over how tall he is, and I'm acting like a proud mom, like I somehow contributed to that. I don't know. And he's like trying to curl up and like disappear. But yeah, that was my morning. I'm wearing the kids kind of think of as my mom uniform. I have these capri pants that I purchased from Sam's Club. Thank you very much. I think they were like $8 at the time. And I tend to wear those instead of like my shorts that I usually wear. I wear those in like either a t-shirt or I don't own blouses, but like a t-shirt without words on it. I didn't have any of those that were clean. And that's like my going out outfit. You know, mom's out there on mom business if I dress this way. So I'm still dressed that way, and it feels very strange because this is my mom outfit while I do my kink shit. It's just weird. But yeah, I mean, it's just work. The cats are good. The dog is good. I got nothing. We're about to go into a week-long band parent extravaganza. Sunday is a concert for the 17-year-old. Tuesday is a concert for the 17-year-old. Thursday is a concert for the 13-year-old. So.
Well, we do have one thing that happened yesterday. It was kind of a whirlwind thing that happened yesterday. But looks like we're going to be in Fort Lauderdale.
That's right. How did I forget that? I just paid the money.
Right.
We're going to Fort Lauderdale in June.
Thanks to a Cricket. Sent me some information on an event that's coming up in June, and looks like we will be vending there. Yep.
It's sounds like a fairly small show. There's 12 vendors in total. It's called Beg, Barter, or Buy, so it's not just B-U-Y, buy, not buy as in bisexual, although that's fine, where people can come and bring what they have, whether it's kink gear that they no longer want and they're willing to trade or sell, or professional vendors like us who have a shop and whatever. We were debating on whether to do it, and it's like, to do that kind of stuff, stars have to align. So it has to be on a day when we can. This is on a Sunday. We have to know what we're going to do with the 13-year-old. Well, we talked to the 17-year-old, and I was like, would you be willing to request a day off of work to be here so he's not alone? Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Then we were like, okay, the car we drive, our RAV4, paid off. It's why we drive it, but we don't want to take it for a 5 or 6 hour drive.
It's showing its age.
It's
it's great for around town or little short trips, but we
don't.
You know.
So then we were like, okay,